Hello and welcome to week 2 of GE3510 Macroeconomics. Remember that the contact information is up top with name, email address, and phone number. Best way to contact is usually with email and giving a couple times that we can then meet by phone and or screen share software at those times. Scrolling down to the current week, we are in week 2. We see the familiar layout of the objectives, the topics, and the lessons. We will be covering Chapter 2, Chapter 14, Chapter 15 in this week. Chapter 2 covering a topic that will be in both microeconomics and macroeconomics. So this is one of those core fundamental economic topics we need to understand. It's going to be comparative advantage. It leads to the idea that trade is typically good. And so we typically, as economists, have the default notion that trade will be a good thing, and it typically leads to more for everybody involved in the trade if we have trade of equal information. We will talk about areas where there will be problems with that concept, and but we need that baseline concept down first and to have the understanding of why that would be the case. What is comparative advantage? How does that lead to benefits in trade typically? Then we have public goods and tax policy. Public goods is going to have a very specific definition when we talk about economic terms. So you want to look up what are we talking about when we talk about a public good in economic terms. It's going to be a good that's going to have problems in terms of having an optimal outcome when we just have a free market, supply and demand, let the market go. That then are the areas that we are going to have debate as to when should we have market intervention, how much market intervention should we have by the government, and what should that look like? Should the government basically take over entirely some pieces of the industry because of these characteristics related to public goods? We'll talk about tax policy, which is going to be a form of government intervention into the market for various types of reasons, and gross domestic product, which again is one of those macroeconomic terms, our goal typically being to increase gross domestic product being kind of like our income statement. Then we have our resources. You can click on these resources and take you to those resources. We also have, these are going to be in terms of audio only, so if you wanted to just listen to the presentations, you can go here. You can also find these too, I think, on iTunes, and if you go to Stitcher, you should be able to find those in the podcast area. So if you want to listen to them in your car or something like that, you should be able to find those. Everything from the discussion forums on down, that's what we need to get done. Remember that the discussion forums are worth 21% of the grade. You want to get full credit, 21% of, or 100% of that 21%. You have the most control over that. In order to do that, we need at least 4 posts. I would try to post more than 4 times to make sure to pick that up. Make sure that you are adding content. If you copy and paste anything, then you want to have the URL just to make sure that you're not plagiarizing. And then to get full credit, you really want to critique it yourself, put it in your own words, and or critique it. There's a lot of information on these topics that, in my opinion, or in a lot of opinions, there's disagreement on, or may not be entirely correct. So it's worth putting your own information and discussing about those items. And then we have the assignments and the homework. So the assignments and the homework mostly will be up here in McGraw-Hill's Connect, but although most of the information will be done up here in McGraw-Hill's Connect, it will not all be listed up here in McGraw-Hill's Connect, and although most of the work will not be done here in Moodle Rooms, it will all be listed here. Therefore, Moodle Rooms, this is where you check everything off. This is where you make sure you got to everything. And in particular, this homework down here, I believe, will not be in McGraw-Hill's Connect, so make sure to jump back over here and pick this up. If you missed it in week 1, I believe there's a homework also not in Connect that you want to pick up, and you can see if you can get that for late work as well. Then we have the quiz down here. Remember that make sure to take the quiz by Sunday. Everything is due by Sunday, but the quiz probably worth the most points and something that we have less leeway in for late work on. Therefore, take the quiz even if you're not feeling confident about it. It's multiple choice. 10% is better than 0%. Pick up as many points as you can on the quiz, and then go back if you have to, if you run into a time constraint, to try to pick up late work on the homework, knowing that you will lose points in accordance with Charter College policy for late work. Then we're going to go up take a look at the gradebook up top. So remember that the gradebook will be that green icon. Everything is going to be turned in by the end of the week. I have until Wednesday to put all the grades in there for the week that had been closed. In for example, week 1, it's going to close on Sunday, or has closed on Sunday. And I'm going to have till Wednesday to enter the grades. I try to get them in there Tuesday around noon. Therefore, Tuesday around noon, go into the gradebook, make sure that everything has been updated as you know it should be. Now, you should have an idea, of course, of what the gradebook should look like because you've gone through Moodle Rooms and checked everything off to make sure that you have completed everything, and then just verify that it has been updated as you believe it should be at that point in time, and let me know if there are any questions. Anything that changes from a dash to a 0 is an indication that it has been graded and not yet been turned in, and those are the ones that you want to go in there and see if you can pick up the late work on that information. So when the grades change from a dash to some grade, that means that the grades have been updated. That's going to be it for week 2. Have a great week 2.